Good day, everyone. Today is Monday, July 22nd, 5:30 p.m. We call the Leesburg City Commission meeting to order. Our prayer will be led by Minister Martinez McDuffie, followed by a pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we just thank you right now for each and every person that's in this room, Lord. We ask you to always give us peace, but also guidance. Lord, we just thank you that we be on one accord for every agenda on this thing, making Leesburg a better city. Lord, we just thank you. We thank you for the leadership of this city, Lord. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. There's no proclamations, no presentations. Item 4 is our consent agenda, where routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commissioner or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. Pull the items from the consent agenda, vote on remaining items with one roll call vote, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items tonight to be pulled?
Yes. 4C6.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other items? Not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the remaining items.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 4C6, I'm gonna pass the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem Dennison, because I have to abstain from 4C6.
Can I still introduce this since I was the one that asked to be pulled?
Yes.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the Mayor Pro Tem and City Clerk to sign an agreement to donate property located at 1505 Floridale Avenue to the Community Development Corporation of Leesburg Incorporated and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
The reason I asked for this to be pulled, there's a line in the staff recommendation that this is a part of the land swap with the Child Advocacy Center, allowing the city to acquire ownership of the northeast corner of Canal and Pine Street. Could you go through an explanation of that again, please, why this is tied up with that?
Yep. When the city bought the Pine Street property for the location of the new aquatic facility, the commission expressed the desire to acquire the northeast corner of Canal and Pine. That corner is an approximately 0.3 acre parcel that's currently owned by the Child Advocacy Center.
Mm-hmm.
Ownership of that parcel would put the Pine Street property in a position where you can have more formal entry off Pine Street, but extend the project from Child all the way to Pine. So I think the commission, I don't think you formally voted on it, but the consensus and direction to me was get that corner. So the best way to get that corner then without spending any money was to put together a land swap.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with Mr. Morrison and we put together a land swap. And essentially the way the land swap works, by the way, the land swap is not before you yet. So that's why I did put this in there, and I also think it's a show of good faith to the CDC. But essentially, the CDC owns an approximately 0.6 acre parcel behind the Child Advocacy Center. That parcel is not landlocked because the CDC owns a flag to the bulk of that parcel, which extends up to Pine Street. So essentially, if you cut the flag off,
Mm-hmm.
CDC has a nice square lot along the front of Pine Street, and that opens up about a 0.6 acre parcel that can go to the Child Advocacy Center, which would not be a landlocked parcel because it's still connected to the southeast corner of Canal and Pine. So the way the deal worked was CDC would give that lot to the city to give to the CAC
Mm-hmm.
if we give them some other properties, one of which was Florida.
Okay.
So that's kind of that's the circle. So here's where we're at. I think the city commission will not have issue with the land swap agreement. That will come before you as soon as it is approved by the parties.
Mhm.
The CDC, represented by the mayor in his non-city capacity, has said that the CDC will approve the land swap.
We've already signed to give it to you.
You did, and then I'm giving it back to you because when we did it at first,
Oh, yeah.
the CAC wanted to do the deal.
Mhm.
But at first shot, the land swap contemplated a smaller parcel. They wanted to make sure they got square inch for square inch. So we were actually about, one natural division was about 300 square feet too small for CAC to get square inch for square inch. So the best way then, we were going to move the line back like literally 5 feet, but then that gave CDC a funny oblong parcel with a flag on it. So that the best cut was just to cut the flag off it, let CDC retain that, and then give a bigger parcel to CAC via the city. CDC agreed on that. So I asked CDC to wait. I've been in contact with Dr. Moffitt, who's the president of the CAC, and everybody is agreeable to the terms. And we are now in the process of putting together a formal survey and formal legal descriptions. I will get those back to Fred. He'll redo the agreement, cut and paste, then get both of those agreements back out to CDC and CAC, and then back before you. I hope that's in the next meeting or the next meeting after that.
Now, the CAC will not have to do anything to their building, would they? I mean, this would give them in the future room to expand, which is what they've wanted to do for the last 5 years.
Yep, they have wanted to expand out to the back,
Right,
and their holdup in doing that has been parking.
right.
So what this allows them to do is build out to the back and still have some area for parking.
Okay.
So they're actually doubling down on their 0.3 acres that they're going to donate to the CDC and then back to the city.
Okay. All right.
So
Thank you.
it's kind of circuitous, but everybody is liking it so far.
Okay. Any more questions? Anybody out there have any questions? Roll call, please, Andy.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Mayor is abstaining.
All right, thank you, everyone. And Al did bring this up because the contractor has not put any tar on the roof. There's no paper on the roof, so we cover the roof so that the wood doesn't get damaged. And so that was kind of why Al kind of put it up early as well, because we didn't want to have to go and buy a whole lot more wood from Romac. Love you,
Fine,
man.
now,
But I do thank you for your support. 5A is a second reading. Would someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce and ask to read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, repealing and replacing Section 5-16, medical marijuana, to allow for medical marijuana dispensaries, amending Chapter 25, Section 25-284, parentheses 3, use table to provide for permitted uses in certain zoning districts and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, we're being forced by the state to agree to have these, is that correct?
I'm assuming your question is we are being forced by the state to have medical marijuana dispensaries.
That's what I think I just said.
I wanted to make sure I understood your question, because I think the answer to that question is no.
Okay.
Okay, what has occurred is the referendum to pass medical marijuana passed. And the way I would break it down is red counties throughout the state moved to ban medical marijuana dispensaries from their land development regulations. The city of Leesburg did that through adopting the ordinance that that Lake County, that's really far back, that Lake County asked us to do.
Okay.
So I'm going to say in most of the communities in Lake County, medical marijuana dispensaries have been banned through the process of the land development regulations stating this type of facility is not permitted in our zoning classifications. What this ordinance contemplates is the allowance of medical marijuana facilities, and it treats them similar to pharmacies. So any place a pharmacy can be within the city of Leesburg, this ordinance allows a legal medical marijuana facility to sell legalized marijuana for medical purposes in such jurisdictions. Really, that restriction is most commercial districts. So in Leesburg, you would see that up and down the 441 corridor, you would see that up and down the 27 corridor, and you would see that down the Main Street corridor, probably a couple of little spots along Dixie as well. Those are rough house general 5,000 foot. This is where you would see it. Where you would not see it is, I think there's the prohibition of 500 feet within schools, and there is a prohibition in industrial areas. The industrial prohibition is more of a planning philosophy that putting a medical marijuana facility in an industrial place would bring on perhaps more riffraff. So this ordinance, if you approve it this evening, allows the sale of medical marijuana within the city limits. And you can do this because you do have the authority to supersede the county ban, which we have in place now, if the commission should chooses to do that.
Well, the sale is already legal, just not the dispensaries, because someone can deliver from outside.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's the state.
Any other questions? I guess my only question would be when we go to location requirements. So we're saying 500 feet of public and private schools, elementary, high schools. So I guess my thought, Fred, is we're in a shopping center. So we could have 2, 3, or 4 of these in the same shopping center. There's no restrictions between multiple.
No, there aren't, and it's the state's approach to regulation that creates that situation. What they've done is say you may ban these entirely, but if you allow them, you have to treat them like you would Walgreens and CVS, and we've all seen them directly across the street from one another everywhere they can acquire the lots. So that's the situation you're going to have. You can't treat these differently under state law. Now there was some uproar in the state law over this by way of a court case. If that holds up, there may be some changes coming, but nothing's in the pipeline yet that I'm aware of.
That was my concern, having a public shopping center with 5 dispensaries in the same, because they can make money. So
No, we've already refused this once, right?
No, you have brought in shortly after, if by recollection, shortly after the referendum passed, which was 2017,
Correct.
I think.
Yeah.
When it was a regular election, I think, one of the off-year ones for the state. When the medical marijuana referendum passed, sale of medical marijuana became legal, and then counties started passing separate local land development regulations to prohibit the dispensaries, and Leesburg pretty quickly thereafter adopted the Lake County ordinance pursuant to their request. I think you may have had some discussion on whether you should or shouldn't adopt the Lake County ordinance, but we did.
Right.
So the only prohibition that we have on this is the one that we put in there at the request of the county, and we did that, I would say, roughly in the winter of 2018.
You're right, it was January,
Ish.
February, yeah. Okay, since we went along with the county, would we then have to repeal that before we could do something like this?
I think this
This
ordinance
does
This would
repeal our
repeal it?
existing
Oh,
ordinance.
Yeah,
okay.
there's
I see an ordinance
it's the
repealing.
typical severability clause in there that
Okay,
repeals anything in
gotcha.
conflict.
So I asked this to get brought up. And my thinking was that one is legal in the state of Florida now, like it or not, and especially with the medical situation, this is not recreational. You have to have a doctor prescribe it. We do have a tremendous issue with opiate abuse in the area, and I would certainly rather people going to the doctor and getting a prescription for pain issues to get medical marijuana than opiates, which are sold at pharmacies across Lake County. I don't think from other areas where you see it that you're going to have a ton of them pop up. I mean, just like you don't have 4 liquor stores in a shopping center, even though we can't say you can't do it because just they're only going to support one, and you don't. So that's my feeling, is that I think this is something that can benefit a lot of people, and it's going to happen. So we can either try to have responsible regulations, or people just have to leave Leesburg and go shop, do their purchases elsewhere.
Anything, Mike?
The only comment I have is I wish we could control the signage a little bit. There's we have the doctor writing medical marijuana prescriptions at Canal and 441.
Yeah,
I'm not very impressed with his, 2.5 foot wide, marijuana leaf.
Is there Canal or over Perkins? It's Perkins.
Did I say
I wanted to
Canal?
make
I'm sorry,
Lee.
it's Lee Street.
It's Lee.
I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to make sure another
Yeah,
one
I'm sorry.
popped up. I knew that one was there. Okay.
Someone brought that to my attention. I rode by and looked at it, and I'm just not very impressed with. But I went and looked at the websites of the companies, they're doing the medical marijuana, and all of them are kind of low key. Their signage, I don't see the big green leaves and all that. And I did speak with Dan Miller about it, a little bit, and my understanding is we can't really control the signage per se, but if we can, I throw that out for discussion. I just hate to see big green leaves everywhere, and that's for the sake of kids.
Right. And I think that's my concern, and I agree with Commissioner Roebuck, but I do also, I think that's my biggest fault, is that we have kids who idolize marijuana, while if you got a doctor or an insurance and get a doctor to write your prescription, you got a lot of kids who recreational, illegally use marijuana. And I brought this up a few months, maybe a year ago, about these kids are getting popped with less than 20 grams of marijuana. It sticks on their record, but yet we're proving where people can go buy it legally, and because they got money, can get a good doctor and get it. So that's kind of my whole biggest flaw with this ordinance, is I just think our youth are getting caught up with this negativity, and of course we say police have the discretion to take it to jail or not, but oftentimes. It's kids who African American descent who are now having this negative on their record, make life even harder. So I'm not going to beat this one up, but I do totally agree with Commissioner Peterson on the signage. And I don't know, Fred, we can do anything with that big leaf.
As I said, you have to treat them the same way you would Walgreens.
Boy.
But in that regard, and one of the things that, and so I think obviously that's the correctly answer, but I think a secondary thing would be is and we don't have a prohibition on this now, but I think there's the way I would recommend you tackle it is that you put a prohibition on kitsch. So kitsch is when you have a signage that's a symbol of what you sell. So for example, when you see Heron Bug and they got a big sign shaped as a bug, you outlaw that. When you go to the ice cream store and they've got a big ice cream cone, that's their sign. You outlaw. You can't have kitsch. So I would think, maybe through that you can't have a big sign. If you don't have kitsch, you can't have a big sign that has a marijuana leaf. Now then that would treat everybody fair. The sign's not obviously the shape of a leaf, but it's got a leaf on there. So I think you could argue that could be kitsch, and I think that could be part of the definition. But if you're okay with the marijuana stores, but you don't want the symbol, then the next step I would bring back to you is then you should get rid of the kitsch.
And I looked at, I don't know if I looked at all of them, but I spent some time looking at them all online, and all of them no one has a big leaf there. I mean, there's one that's kind of a spin-off of it, but I mean, I was fairly impressed. Their websites, they show you existing buildings, they're all very low-key. But I just threw that out for discussion, partly connecting to the one there at Lee and 441.
And I would also say too, on separate from the marijuana legalization for medical purpose issue, I think kitsch is probably a topic that you want to discuss in the future, especially as we invest more and more into the facade sign landscape program and getting more attractive monument style signs throughout town. The next step of that is, don't put a business in and invest in their sign that's going to be a big ice cream cone out there. Long term, I think that's not attractive. It's a older advertising type symbol, and most communities these days are moving away from that. So I think that's a topic you want to talk about no matter what.
Good, thank you, Al.
Commissioner Hurley, got anything on this topic?
Well,
I
I
don't have a computer.
same thing. I mean, before we start going into, for me, signs, saying you can't have ice cream cones or a shape of a battery. I mean, I do understand that, but one thing about it, I mean, never forget it's an ordinance, and the 5 who make it can change it or do away with it. So, we're never bound forever because we make an ordinance on something that's new to our area, and we do have some uncertainties, obviously, of how it's going to go and how it's going to be affected. But I just tell my grandkids that it's just a palm leaf, that's all.
Do we have any public comment on this ordinance? If not, we'll have roll call. Do you have any other discussion from the commission? Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Dennison,
No.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
No. Item 5B is the first reading. Someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce and ask for it by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending Section 5-3 setbacks of the City of Leesburg Code of Ordinances to add setback requirements for movie theaters interior to a shopping center and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
First reading.
This is the first reading.
Oh,
Sorry.
Any discussion before we move it on to the next?
Is this AMC? Okay, you mentioned 2 screens. That was the only thing that threw me off. Is everything else sounded like it? But okay, it's just 2 screens that this.
It's 2 sides. Is what he did.
Oh, okay, 2 sides of it. Okay.
The one side's far enough away, the other one's not.
Okay. I was trying to figure out like which of the 12 screens was the problem. So.
It's like, what did they get? They got 15, like theaters 1 through 7
Yeah.
does, and
That makes
theaters
2 of the
8 through
screens
15 don't.
Yeah. I guess.
I didn't
All right,
catch that.
any comments from the public? If not, this item will lay over. Item 5C is a resolution. Someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce and ask for it by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, renaming the street now designated as Dozier Circle to Venetian Gardens Blvd and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moving and properly second. Discussion?
Just,
Yep.
Al has something?
No, I do. Which dozer was this circle named for? Was this the gentleman who ran the, up in Levy County, the, I don't want to call it a prison, but is this him? I was going to raise this issue up so
I
that we
don't-
don't call it Dozier Circle.
yeah, I think the answer to that is no, but I don't know for certain.
Okay.
But I did do some research. I know after Joe Shipes had talked to you about the branding, and basically Dozier Circle is kaput these days. I before we bulldozed off and just renamed it, I did do a little bit of research into the history of Dozier Circle, so we could have maybe a little bit of a discussion, and you would know. So I did talk to a couple of our noted local historians about the name, and essentially this is how I would piece together the history of Dozier Circle. There was a Matthew Dozier who was one of the lived in Leesburg in like the 1820s, even before Leesburg was settled. He had a son. His son, I want to say, was Lawrence Dozier. I can't remember the first name. I want to say it was a Lawrence or a Larry or something like that. He was the mayor of Leesburg for 10 consecutive times from 1860 to 1880. And he was known for the planting of oak trees in what is Dozier Circle, or yesterday's Dozier Circle. In the 20s, when the commission started planning for development in Dozier Circle, and the work project started to come along, there was the drive to create a canal that went from the basin to Lake Griffin, hence Canal Street. And I think as the early 30s came along, the community became very aware, very confident that the canal project was going to happen, and they actually took this property from the Dozier family in exchange for making sure it stayed a public park and all these type of things. So I feel confident that the use of that property actually still is it within those covenants. That hasn't changed. I feel confident that, according to the local historians, there are really no more relatives of the Dozers in Leesburg. So this isn't going to get a lot of hoopla. Although as soon as you pass an ordinance that changes the name, probably then tomorrow, a million descendants from the Dozers will be upon my office. But I would say that you're safe to change the name.
Right.
I think there is some historical context that's not associated with the
With the
prison
reform
guy.
school.
And I would say an appropriate action that we probably need to keep is to plant an oak tree of significance
Okay.
in Dozers in the basin somewhere with a plaque for the former Mayor Dozier.
Put it on one of the oak trees, but there's too much going on right now with Dozier, and I was going to bring this up anyway because I was against renaming it Dozier. For those of you who don't know it, there was a reform school up in Levy County. There's a book that just was published last week about all the bodies they're finding up there and whatnot. Was not a pleasant thing, and unfortunately the guy's last name was Dozier who was running that.
Like I said, I don't know if there's relation, but Dozier, as that spelling there is a significant historical significance for early
Okay.
Leesburg settlement.
Okay.
Any further discussion from the commission?
So my only question was that we have a Venetian Park Drive, and now we go to Venetian Gardens Boulevard. Is that what we
Venetian's Garden Boulevard would be the formal name.
are? I guess maybe some confusion with the two Venetians, but I mean I'm not really okay with it. The other suggestion that though is maybe if we're going Venetian, if the Venetian Center is going to be there, it should be Venetian Center Boulevard. It's not. I don't really care though. There's some thoughts.
My suggestion would be to stay with the Venetian Gardens Boulevard. We did clear it. It is an open name.
Okay.
It keeps in with the theme of Venetian Gardens and then fits under the lakefront branding method. So I think that's a good name. And immediately you'll have probably about 4 buildings, I think, that will need to be readdressed, which we'll do administratively, which would be the Wellness Center, the Boat Club, the restaurant at Ski Beach, and then the Venetian Center will need a Venetian Gardens Boulevard address.
Any public comment? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 5D is the purchase request.
I'll introduce and ask you read by title only, please.
Thank you.
Purchase request for equipment to apply closed captioning information on lakefront TV streaming and live broadcast content to Encore Broadcast Solutions for an amount of $54,287.75.
We have a motion,
Move for approval.
Second.
discussion. Discussion from the public. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dennison,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck,
No.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yes.
Mayor Christian.
Yes. Item 5E is the resolution. Would someone like to introduce it, please?
I'll introduce and ask you read by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, executing and submitting the certification of taxable value for fiscal year 2019-20 to the Lake County Property Appraiser and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
So we go ahead.
Just, Mr. Peterson, Commissioner Peterson may knows it, but this is always an important one for the public, just to, this is the famous DR 420, the State Department of Revenue form that municipalities are required to complete to go to the property appraiser's office so that when the trim notices go out, this is the maximum millage rate that the local government can tax up to. So once you sign this form, you can change that, but then you are then required to advertise on your own. So basically, it's always described as this is your maximum number, which we're recommending at 4.2678, which is the millage number we discussed in our workshops. If you choose to go above that number, you'll then have to go through another advertisement process to send out your trim notices to be able to tax above that rate. So essentially, all the cities generally fill out this form, and in their discussions, they never go above that number to avoid the requirement to have to do a local trim notice. So if you guys authorize this resolution, that allows me to execute it with the 4.2678 mil number in the form.
So we go through this every year.
Every year.
Okay.
Discussion from the commission?
So the last couple of years, I've supported holding the rate steady and not going to rollback. But this year, and I know it could change still, but where the budget discussions have gone, I can't support this is about a 6% tax increase. In the past, the tax increases have gone to either for specific capital projects or to reduce electric rates. But this year, it's the first year since I've been on the commission that I think I can say unambiguously that we are actually just growing the size of government. We're adding about 6% in personnel, including personnel that we as a commission decided to override the city manager's recommendations on. And so I can't support a tax increase for that type of spending. So.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the commission?
Well, I support it because unlike you and the city manager, I do support the tax set millage rate that we have had in place, even though property values have went up, to get the rest of the firefighters that we need to make all of our stations even. But, you know, my thing is, because I know on Facebook it'll be a discussion in the morning, but, you know, when the property values plummeted, nobody wanted to raise the millage rate to keep everybody employed, or to let them have their raises that they were due, or to keep the city running at the level it was. Instead, when the property values plummeted, we cut every single department. Public safety didn't have a raise for over 6 years. So I do respect, you know, where some are coming from. I understand that. But for me, I'm not raising your tax. Your millage rate is the exact same. And your property values have went up thanks to a collection of wonderful things that are happening in our city, county, state, and country. And so, you know, when you sell it, you're going to reap the benefits of that increased value on your home.
Any other commission comments?
Commissioner Hurley stated exactly what I felt, and I think I said during the last meeting. I agree with you. We have done changes, we've improved the city, we have improved the county, and I think that the 6% that they are seeing in their property values, we can hold the tax rate at where it is, and they can help share in that 6%, because we did have major cutbacks during 2008 and above, and the employees and whatnot took an awful lot of hit and did without, and now we want to go ahead and bring the city up to where it should be. So I agree. I know you want to write this date down.
That's
but
twice.
That's twice.
Commissioner Peterson, anything, sir?
No, I'm fine. I respect Commissioner Roebuck's opinion. After going through budget and talking about all the you know, we've only got so much money to work with, and I think we're still struggling with how we're going to spend that, and I'd hate to lose that money. You know, I like how we're spending that money.
Yes, sir. Any public comment? If not, we'll have roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Roebuck?
No.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Christian?
Yes. Item 5, I'm sorry, there's no information reports. We do have a financial reports as of May 2019. City manager, anything you want to update us on the financial report?
No, sir.
Nothing, all right. City attorney items,
Nothing tonight.
nothing tonight, all right. City manager items,
I have no items for you tonight as
no
well.
items, oh, wow, okay. Public comment, this section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or be scheduled for consideration at a future city commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, please. Are there any public comments tonight? Seeing no public comment, we'll have roll call.
Commissioner Roebuck?
I still need the information on the utility allocation changes for this year.
I'll get them for you. I'll have them for you by tomorrow night.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing.
Commissioner Dennison?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Commissioner Hurley?
Just out of curiosity, if this $15 an hour minimum wage thing happens, how bad is that going to affect us immediately?
Do you know the answer to that? Didn't we? Our lowest position right now is 14 and some change.
That's $12 in
I'll get you a formal answer for that. I think our lowest position paid right now, entry level, is
there.
$11.09. How many people would be below $15? 25 or 30? That would be my guess. That I'll get you a real answer on that.
But
My guess is about
it's-
25
it's
to 30
two-part
people.
for me, if you could find out too, because my question is right now, we have the pay scale. So the $11 an hour guy is in this pay scale, and the $16 an hour guy is in the next pay scale. So does that alter all the pay scales now all of a sudden? I mean, I'm just kind of curious if it should happen, where it would put us. Other than that, great
That's the-
commission meeting. I've enjoyed it. It was wonderful tonight. I love it. That's it.
That's it. Mayor Christian?
Probably put Mike on the spot, but we hear sometimes see a lot of Facebook chatter about some of the new development. One, I think I talked to Mike a few months ago about the Stay and Save Hotel that's keen like it's hit a roadblock. Had a lot of discussion about the Wawa. I know they just put a sign up, but then way you kind of give us a kind of update on some of the. That'll be it. I don't want to put you on too much on the spot, but whatever comes top of your head, kind of just give us and for the public kind of an update on what's happening with some of these properties.
Mike Rankin, Deputy City Manager. We met with Wawa today. Steel will be on around the 12th of August. They're working on the site this week. They plan to be open for Christmas.
Okay.
And that's happening. Stay and Save. We had one of the international investors kind of go down under. He's from Venezuela.
Okay.
So we had to take the time to recommunicate with the international investors. They have since updated the building plans and brought in proper architectural plans. Our building department has commented on those. We're waiting a start date on that. Probably this fall. Bunch of other projects going on too.
All right. Anybody got anything else for Mike while he's got him on the hot seat? Thank you, man. We appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. That's all I have for tonight. Motion to adjourn.
Get your budget meeting tomorrow night.
Budget meeting tomorrow night, 5:30 right here.
See them boys again.